Marea Neagră este importantă pentru noi toți. După cum știți, suntem membri NATO și la Marea Neagră sunt 3 membri NATO. Și nu cred că este vreo amenințare la Marea Neagră. Declarația îi aparține ambasadorului Turciei la București, Koray Ertaş, invitatul nostru astăzi la Pașaport Diplomatic. President Erdogan is making very interesting statements for European mind. For example, on the situation and on the position of the woman that should have in the society, on the freedom of speech. How are these received in Turkey? Are they usual statements made by Turkish men, let's say, or they have been misinterpreted, perhaps?
Actually, Turkey is a free society, so everyone can discuss freely whatever they think, and everyone can criticize our leaders, including Mr. President. He indeed made a statement on the rights of women, which is actually misinterpreted, because in his speech, he actually underlined that women and men are biologically different, and when he was saying this, he's actually trying to justify a positive discrimination in the new legal procedures in the workplace for women, because Turkish current legislation is not aligned with the European ones in the sense that to give maternity leaves, for example, for women when they have babies. So he's trying to strengthen the idea that women needs positive discrimination in certain cases, especially in the workplace. That's why he was making this suggestion of biological difference. But if you look to the actions of what Turkey did, especially in the last decade, is a tremendous achievement in terms of trying to strike gender balance, gender equality. Maybe you heard about it, but for instance in Turkey we had a serious issue about domestic violence, especially in certain parts of the country. So the government is fighting very seriously against it, and we just recently pioneered an international convention of the Council of Europe. It was just ratified, I guess, like 1 or 2 years ago. Also, in legislative terms, we took serious measures to safeguard women against domestic violence as well. If you look to the further record, the historical record, Turkey has actually given voting rights, for example, for women even before Switzerland, back in 1930 and 34, respectively. Also, the participation of women in workplace, in the government, in state institutions is also a priority for our country. And thanks to that, thanks to these understanding and efforts, now we have the largest number of women parliamentarians in the Turkish parliament, for instance. When it comes to freedom of press, if you ask this, freedom of press is of course the basic element of any democratic society. Any liberal democracy should have a freedom of press. It is actually safeguarded by our constitution. As I said, the country is already a very lively country in terms of civil society organizations, press institutions.
And a huge country.
And it's a big one. There are all colors in terms of ideologies, political views, and etc. Currently, the number of NGOs, for example, in Turkey is more than 100,000. The number of papers is more than 7,000. And when it comes to TV stations, we have, I guess, 238 or something TV stations in the country. And they are supporting very different views, pro-government, against government. If you look to the largest papers in Turkey, which you might follow, you also see this trend. People do not, prevent the press to make serious allegations about the governing people or etc. So the freedom of press is guaranteed. The problem is to do with certain people who are supposed to be journalists but was put in the jail. This is the thing that worsened the perception of Turkey in the West. We are hearing numbers of, for example, 100 plus journalists who are now in jail in Turkey. So we are trying to find who they are. Recently we invited a Committee for Protection of Journalists, the CPJ, in Turkey to talk with the Turkish leaders, including the Minister of Justice, to see what the real case is. And they provided our leaders a list of 7 journalists who are supposed to be in the jail. So out of the 7, 1 of them has already been acquitted, and 6 of them was actually was jailed by the relevant court order in early 2000s or late 90s for charges of killing security officers, for example, or drug trafficking, or carrying illegal weapons, something like this, not related to their journalistic activities. And after all these criticisms, our government at the highest level made a plea to the international community and say, if there is a journalist in the jail which is put for journalistic reasons, please come and tell us so that we'll look into the case to see whether there are ways to go to further court issues. I also would like to underline an important issue on this. As you know, Turkey is part of the Council of Europe, like Romania, and the international jurisdiction of the European Court is superior to our domestic jurisdiction. And it's always possible for individual application to appeal any court case in Turkey. So anyone who argues that there's a mistake in terms of the rulings of the Turkish court can go to Strasbourg, which is a very serious and effective process actually. So I guess there's a misperception on this issue. There's a vibrant and lively society on one hand, and there are some isolated cases who are inside not because of their journalistic activities.
President Erdogan also has let's say, mixed relationship with the European Union. He recently stated that the European Union should deal rather with the anti-Islamic feelings in the Union and rather with the problems of Turkey. Is this just a political rhetoric, or there are really frictions between the Union and Turkey?
Well, Turkey-EU relations are so complex and complicated. Imagine that there's a relationship between men and women which lasted for 50 years and still there is no marriage in the end, and you never know whether this marriage at all will happen. We started finally the negotiation process in 2005. Now 10 years passed. Out of this, in 10 years, we were only able to open and close 1 chapter out of 35. We opened 14, but only 1 chapter, 1 of them were closed. Everyone knows that technically Turkey met all the criteria. If you look to the major criterion, which is the economic one, is the Maastricht criteria, Turkey is doing much better than many of the EU countries. And the political criteria, which is Copenhagen, it's already stated 10 years ago or more so that Turkey satisfactorily met the political criteria in Copenhagen. What is the problem? Then the problem is political, of course. In certain capitals of Europe, luckily it's not Bucharest, which we are so happy as an ambassador I'm here. In some capitals of Europe, there are political blocks or blockages against the Turkish membership. This inevitably creates reaction in the Turkish public, as well as in our leadership, which is totally understandable. When it comes to radicalism or Islamophobia in Europe, this is actually a very high issue on the agenda of Europe, especially after the terrorist attack in Paris, and even before that.
But what is Islam saying that Muslim people, Muslim believers should do in such cases? Should they attack? Should they punish those who are defaming, for instance, Prophet Muhammad?
Of course not. Of course not. It's not the job of a Muslim to punish another one for doing something. This is not our job. And by the way, we are not living in an Islamic society. As you know, Turkey is a secular state. There are courts, civil courts, and they are the ones who will punish or not punish people. It's not the job or duty or whatever it is of a man on the street to decide on the issues. Everyone can express their views by not using violence and not inciting hatred. They can say whatever they want, but when they start to touch to other people, then it's a legal case and they should be punished for this, of course.
Mm-hmm. On the other hand, many people are using Turkey to cross to Syria and join the Islamic State. Isn't there a way to stop this flood of people and to close the border and to filter somehow people who wish to do these actions to join the Islamic State via Turkey?
This is a serious problem, not only for international community, but more importantly for our country. Because unfortunately the border between Turkey, Syria and Iraq, which is about more than 900 kilometers, is very difficult to control. Of course the borders are closed, but they're not using the border gates, of course, they're using other means. You cannot put fence for 1,000 kilometers, even if you put fence, because we have fences in most of the places, but they are cutting it and doing some other ways. We have constant patrols over there. Maybe you know the case, the famous case between Mexico and the US. Even the US cannot control its own long border with Mexico by using the high-tech devices or whatever. The problem here is about intelligence sharing. Of course, our border police making necessary checks, face controls and others, but it's a very difficult process of trying to ban these people, and we are doing our best. But we plead to our allies and partners, especially in Europe, to increase intelligence sharing with us and give us a prior notice if they are suspected of any kind of foreign fighter activity in their countries.
There is also a reverse phenomenon of migration. Refugees are coming massively from Syria to Turkey. How is your country coping with this situation?
It's a great burden to Turkey. It's now many years, as you know. The number of refugees are almost becoming 2 million people. 1.6 million of them are from Syria. Socially, economically, this is a huge burden for Turkey. But we see it as a humanitarian crisis. No one would leave their hometowns or cities for good. They came here out of serious conditions, running and fleeing from persecution and killing. So we have to open arms to them, and we did it. And we are lucky that the Turkish people actually were hospitable to them. Otherwise, it might have occurred serious problems as well. Because not all of them, actually, a small portion of them are living in camps. And the camps are quite good. It's like pristine, very clean, and etc. But most of them are living in cities together with Turkish people. There's no slums or no ghettos. They are living all together. So it's a real challenge for Turkey. Up until now, we managed to do it. Turkey is a big country, a strong economy. Hopefully, we could continue like this.
Turkey is massively importing gas from Russia. Is this only a commercial cooperation, or is this rather help given to Russia in order to cope with the sanctions and its very weak economic position?
Well, let me talk with the figures.
Yes.
So currently, the trade between Turkey and Russia is about $37 billion. About 30 billion of it is Russian imports to Turkey, and more than 70% of it is energy. So yes, the trade is huge on the balance sheet. It's a very big number, but the bulk of it is energy. So there's no way that there might be any way that we are trying to help Russia or whatever to escape from it. If you look to Turkish exports, it's mostly automobile parts, textile, and fruits and others. So quite simple products. Russia and Turkey share the same geography, about 1,000 years. So we know each other very well. Russia is a big power, it's a great power, historical power. Currently it's one of the largest countries in the world, geography-wise. Population-wise, it's a member of P5 as a nuclear power, etc., etc. You can enlarge the list. So we believe an honest dialogue and engagement with Russia is the way through. We have serious disagreements with Moscow on the issue of Syria, for example, on Ukraine, on Crimea, and when we sit on the table, also on our public statements, we made it very clear, saying that we are against on these particular policies. but we also think that engagement is a must in terms for solving serious problems in an effective manner.
Since you mentioned Crimea, Russia seems to push forward to increase its influence on the Black Sea. Is Turkey seeing this as a threat?
Black Sea is important for all of us. As you know, we are a NATO member. So in the Black Sea, out of the littoral states, there are 3 NATO members. I guess we are already quite strong here and has a very visible presence. I don't think that there is a serious threat in the Black Sea. And until the crisis in Crimea and illegal annexation of the region, we had actually a working cooperation with Russia and other littoral states as well, especially within Black Sea 4. So honestly, at the moment, regarding the Black Sea, things seem to be quite under control. But if there is anything, of course, we will work with our allies and do our share accordingly, as we did in the past.
Vorbim acum despre o moschee regală. În urmă cu un secol, regele Carol I a oferit musulmanilor care trăiau pe malul românesc al Mării Negre un edificiu prin care le răsplătea acestora loialitatea față de statul român. Ambasadorul Turciei ne-a invitat la Constanța să ne prezinte personal istoria acestei moschei.
Cultul musulman este unul dintre cele 15 culte religioase recunoscute oficial în România. Musulmanii s-au stabilit pe teritoriul României în jurul secolelor 14-15 și s-au dezvoltat mai ales în Dobrogea și în unele localități de-a lungul Dunării. Iar odată cu credincioșii au apărut și lăcașurile de cult. Jamia Hunciar din Constanța și Jamia Esma Han Sultan din Mangalia sunt printre cele mai vechi.
Okay, so we arrived to Constanța.
Yes.
It's a beautiful day. In front of a beautiful building.
A little bit cold though.
Yes.
Little bit.
But it's February.
Yes, normal, yeah.
So what is this building really?
This is the oldest mosque in Constanza, 19th century, 1869, built on the name of one of the Ottoman sultans, Sultan Abdülaziz. The name is Hünkar Mosque, and Hünkar is actually a different version of Sultan. It is also the oldest, one of the oldest in Romania as well. This is a typical type of Anatolian mosque. There is no dome as you see it here. Now it is used actively by the Romanian Muslim minority. As you know, Constanța is also the area where the Turks and Tatars are living predominantly, with peace with their compatriots here.
This looks like a small mosque for me. Is it a usual size for a mosque or it is rather small?
No, it's a small one, of course. It's like the mosque in Anatolia, in central Anatolia of Turkey. So no domes, as you see. It's a normal attic.
Cultul musulman prevede rugăciunea de 5 ori pe zi, care trebuie făcută întotdeauna spre est, în direcția moscheei Kaaba din orașul Mecca, cel mai sacru loc al religiei islamice. Kaaba este considerat primul loc creat pe pământ.
Is there any prayer more important during the day than the others?
I believe not. So everything is at the same weight, if I may say.
Do you perform prayings in Bucharest also at your office?
Myself, unfortunately, I cannot practice 5 times a day. In the office, not as well. But the major prayer for Muslims is Friday prayer, like your Sunday church visits. So I try to go to Friday prayers in Bucharest, in different mosques.
În trecut, îndeplinirea datoriilor pentru credincioșii musulmani a fost îngreunată de regimul politic. Rezultatele își fac simțite efectele în zilele noastre.
Cât de important este pentru religia musulmană tradiția, legătura între generații, tranziția între generații?
Pentru religia islamică vreau să vă spun că la noi în România, din nefericire, noi nu am mai avut după 67, după ce s-a închis seminarul musulman de la Medgidia, nu mai avut o școală teologică unde să ne pregătim imamii noștri, iar ultimul absolvent din cadrul seminarului musulman a fost în anul 1967. De aceea a fost o diferență foarte mare de generații. Știți foarte bine, regimul comunist nu ne-a permis studierea religiei noastre, iar cei care au apucat să studieze au fost până în anul pe care vi l-am spus.
Înainte de instaurarea regimului comunist, credința religioasă și tradițiile erau tratate cu mult respect. Regele Carol I a făcut pentru musulmanii din România un gest extrem de prețuit chiar și în ziua de azi. A construit o moschee.
We are in front of another mosque, much bigger this time,
Yes.
which was built out of political agreement and with a spice of diplomacy. Please tell us details about that.
Yes, actually, this mosque is so important, both architecturally, but also in terms of its meaning. It has a very powerful meaning. Imagine that 100 years ago, or more than 100 years ago, a leader of a country who is Christian decided to build a mosque for its Muslim citizens or subjects. So it's a very powerful message in the sense of tolerance and living together side by side with the others.
Una dintre comunitățile importante ale musulmanilor din România a trăit pe insula Ada Calais de pe Dunăre. În 1968, insula a fost evacuată și inundată în cursul construcției hidrocentralei Porțile de Fier. Un obiect de cult recuperat de pe insulă se află acum la Constanța.
A Romanian architect actually had all the designs, and he took example of the Byzantine and Egyptian type of architecture while building it. Actually, at the very same place, there was an older Ottoman mosque, which was built in 18th century by Sultan Mahmud I. But then the mosque was tear down, and king that time decided to build the mosque in the very same place as a token of gesture to its Muslim citizens. There's also an interesting story about the carpet in the mosque, which is this one, as you see it here. This carpet is donated by Sultan Abdülhamid to the mosque in Adakale, the famous island which is now under the waters
Flooded,
after
yes.
the dam. So they brought the carpet to this mosque. It's a very big one from Turkey's Hereke region. Hereke is one of the most popular places in Turkey in terms of carpet viewing. It is about 150 square meters and very heavy as well. It's like 500 kilogram of fabric, and of course it's handmade since it came in 19th century.
Moscheea a fost inaugurată pe 31 mai 1913. Cu mare fast la vremea aceea, la ceremonie au participat și suveranii României de la acea dată, regele Carol I și regina Elisabeta.
Ediția din această seară se încheie aici, dar rămânem în continuare online, pe contul nostru de Twitter și pe pagina de Facebook a emisiunii. Ne revedem sâmbătă viitoare de la ora 22:30. La revedere!